All right, we've got like 7 minutes left. There is one theist left, which I'm going to go ahead and take, Stanley in Columbus, because I was just in Columbus not too long ago. Are you there?
Yes, Matt. Hello. Hi, John.
Hey, Stanley. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Matt, it's an honor to speak with you. Let me say, long-time listener, first-time caller. Colin, going through a lot of things. Been checking out this Mandela effect. And normally, any type of conspiracy, BS, I'm very skeptic on most of it. But this Mandela effect, have you guys checked any of this out?
The Mandela effect, you're talking about people collectively misremembering things?
Exactly. I mean, everything from popular, like the Ford emblem's different now, it has a little squiggly thing on the F that was never there before. Procter and Gamble is spelled different. And there's hundreds. Fruit Loops is spelled with the double O's and the fruit instead of being spelled right. And there's just so many of them. I mean, crazy. Michael Jackson, Smooth Criminal. Now the lyrics have changed all of a sudden. And it's just, I mean, insanity, how many things. I mean, I'm a fairly intelligent, college-educated man. And yes, I do struggle with whether I believe in something beyond unmeasurable reality. But usually I'm skeptical when it comes to anything. And so I was wondering, since you guys are pretty big skeptics on everything, what if you've looked into it and what you're maybe thinking about it?
People make mistakes. Your brain adjusts memories. So one of the things, when I'm doing this show up in Vancouver, I'll be talking a little bit about intuition, and I'm going to be doing an effect that relates to the Stroop effect, which is where you have a bunch of words of colors, but like the text will say red, but the font will actually be green. So when they match up and you read, so when they match up, you can read through them quickly. When they don't match up, when they're incongruous, it takes longer. It requires a little more effort. There's a number of different hypotheses.
The heuristic memory doesn't know how to pull in the appropriate information. I understand that. I really do. But some of these things are creepy.
Okay, so then there's the other thing that I was going to talk about, which is, that spelling doesn't matter, that if you keep the first letter and the last letter in a word and jumble the rest of it, you can still read it. You can find examples of this out on the internet. Our brains are curious things, and we know that eyewitness testimony is unreliable. We have I'm hearing a lot of noise in the back.
I'm sorry.
Have you turned the show off so that I'm getting...
Yeah, the show's off. Yeah, I can just hear you on my phone.
Okay, so... We know that eyewitness testimony is unreliable. We know that people invent memories. We know that shared memories can be invented. I'm not quite sure what so there's all kinds of examples of this, which is how it got labeled to the Mandela effect. But I'm not sure what you're looking for as far as us addressing it.
Oh, no. See, even like with the actual namesake, Nelson Mandela, I can tell you the classroom I was sitting in when we sat and watched his funeral on TV. I remember people wearing the shirts with the 6664, which was his prison number. I remember the Oprah show. I remember sitting in his class discussing about how it's changing South Africa and the end of the apartheid and all that. I remember all that.
So during a recent debate, my opponent was talking about how everybody remembers they were on 9/11. And interestingly, there's a study of people over the course of a decade. And it turns out that after 10 years, only 50% of the people are correct about where they actually were on 9/11. This is the malleability of our memory. However, this is the important thing to not lose sight of, because I hear people talk about things like the Mandela effect and the unreliability of eyewitness testimony, and then think, holy crap, that means we could just be wrong about anything and everything, and that we probably are. The problem here is that we're not likely to be significantly wrong about everything, but the fact that we are able to identify instances of the Mandela effect means that we are still able to go out and verify someone's memory against the actual occurrence, which means we haven't lost the actual occurrence. The information is there. The only thing we should take away from this is do not be so enamored with your own thoughts and ideas and your own memories, even things, especially perhaps things you've been saying for years. Instead, go out and research and find out the answer. And occasionally, it's good to much the same way I would rewatch a movie I saw 10 years ago and may not remember much of it. In some cases, it's good to go back and reread a book, reread an article, restudy a topic.
I understand, Matt, and I do this. I do. I'm skeptical. I go back and I look. Life is like a box of chocolates. Yet it never says that in the movie, but you can find it in commercials. You can find it in all kinds of other things. You can find Tom Hanks saying it, just like Luke, I am your father. Does not happen in Star Wars. Ever.
Yeah, I'm just wondering what...
Even James Earl Jones talks about it, you know? Like, he remembers filming it and all of that.
Well,
stuff like that freaks me out.
Sure, the problem here is that, yes, he doesn't say, Luke, I am your father, but he does say, I am your father.
Yeah, he says, no,
so
I am your father.
So what we're talking about in this instance isn't somebody getting something specifically wrong that's significant. It's about them embellishing a story and misremembering. We're coming up on the end of the show, and I'm trying to get to what it is that you want us to address.
Well, you actually did. I mean, honestly, I'm just somebody who tries to figure things out constantly, and this is one thing that's just baffling my brain on how this is happening. I mean, significantly. I mean, and yes, I understand false memories, shared memories. I understand it, all of that. But there's still something that just, I mean, even when like physicist John Ellis from CERN is talking about some of these points, like he's even buying into the, drinking the Kool-Aid now on the Mandela effect.
Which, by the way, it's not drinking the Kool-Aid.
But yeah, just like James Gate also has talked about, he's a physicist and talks about how now the code that they comes up with at the most finite in string theory, when they the most finite code to explain it turns out to be ones and zeros, and a specific set of ones and zeros that we use for web browsers, which is very, very, very creepy.
So you took a step there where we were talking about the Mandela effect, which doesn't boggle my mind at all. People are imperfect thinkers. People are imperfect rememberers. And as we begin to share stuff, the idea that I am your father converts to Luke, I am your father, is wholly unsurprising to me. But now you're talking about ones and zeros in string theory that relate to web browser. I think that you've taken a step or two off in a direction that I couldn't possibly address with 0 minutes left in the show. So
I understand, Matt.
On that note,
thank you for taking my call, anyways.
Yeah, thanks a lot for calling.
Have a great day.
We'll let you go.
You too.
So that's
memory's weird. The more you learn about memory, the less I trust anything that I think I remember without checking it out. It's like.
It's about, this is why I like this example that I was talking about, where you can, if you keep the first letter and the last letter of a word and jumble everything else up. It's weird coincidence that we were talking about this actually before the show, and it relates directly to this. Your brain still reads it because your brain processes words and not letters. And also, your brain thinks in concepts. And so, Luke, I'm your father, and I'm your father, not really different. He's talking to Luke. The fact that you've injected some extra information in there isn't significant. If it became popular that the phrase was, Jeremiah, I am your sister-in-law, that'd be pretty impressive. I mean, that would be an impressive shift that we would need to justify. But what we might find is that somebody made that as an internet meme, and it became more popular in 70 years than the Star Wars movies were at that time. But the nice thing is that you've got them on Blu-ray, and you can go back and watch them as long as you keep your Blu-ray player for the next 70 years.